So I'm going to keep this kind of simple. Basically, I threw a timing belt and destroyed both heads. So I purchased brand new heads, remanufactured, I should say, not brand new. I purchased remanufactured heads from a place in Chicago called Windy City. And I rebuilt my engine, basically. Keep it short, that's basically what I did. So as soon as I started the engine after my reassembly, it started up fine, no problem. But I was getting a P3400 code, P3400. That's what this whole video is about. It's about me chasing down the P3400 code, which says that the VCM variable cylinder management system is stuck in the off mode on the rear bank. P3400 is the rear bank, or the bank that's closest to the firewall. So normally that is simply a broken or burned out oil pressure switch on that bank. But there's also two solenoids on that bank. I tested my pressure switch and it's working fine. So I'm digging deeper into this. And so I took off my solenoids and inspected them, but I need to still test them. But I got drawn further into this. So I knew I had to take off the valve cover to check the lifter clearance. But it also occurred to me that when I accepted this head from Windy City, I never really looked closely at the VCM management portion of the rocker arm assembly that they sold me. So I decided I need to look at that. Plus, you will find when you do your research that sometimes when you have these problems with the VCM, it's the solenoid, sometimes it's the oil pressure switch, but sometimes it relates to a screen that is inside under the valve cover, so you have no choice to take a look at this screen. And so basically I felt compelled to dig into this thing to get to the bottom of it, because I want this project over with, and I didn't want to reassemble it, still have the code, and then have to take it apart again. So since I had to take the valve covers off for adjusting the lifter clearance, I decided let's do it all at once. So this video shows you my discovery process as I worked through it, and it'll give you some information on how the VCM works, or how this is put together on this 2008 Honda J35 engine. But at the very end, and it is about a 15, 16, or 17-minute video, I make a major discovery that makes me extremely disappointed with Windy City in Chicago and forces my hand. I have no choice at this point but to remove the rocker arm assembly completely and clean the whole thing up. And this video will explain to you how I got to that point. So anyhow, hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, these are my two rocker arms out of my J35 engine. These are my rocker arm assemblies. This is the front and the rear. This is exactly the way it's oriented. So when I took this one out, one of the things I noticed was this plug right here. It's just a plug, a bolt that screws in, and I think it just seals off an oil passage. But when I took off the back, take a look at what I found. There's that same plug, but there's no plug in it. And then I also noticed over here this with no plug in it. And I'm just curious if that's the way these things are supposed to be or not. What do you guys think? One of the things I discovered is that when I put air pressure in here, it actuates the little, I don't know what you call them, but the little plungers here that either activate or deactivate the rocker arms. You can actually see them move. Let me show you here. So if I zoom in and I'm going to apply air pressure, I'm going to apply air pressure right there. Now look at what you can see happen. See that? You see that one? They move. So that tells me that without a plug here, there'll be no way for this system to pressurize because the oil will just leak right out here. So I don't understand how my rear bank could have not had a plug here and functioned correctly. Because this is all about a P3400 code. So if I already bench tested the pressure switch, it works. So something's up with these. And if we look at them here, this one, now one thing I can tell you is that I'm reusing these, but this was full of grime. It was leaking badly. And so it could be that these O-rings are bad on there. There's 3 O-rings, it looks like, on this one. And then on the back one here, this has an O-ring at the bottom that probably could stand to be replaced. But this is, I need to test this as well. I just need to see if I can just apply 12 volts to these and see them move, just to know that they're working. Okay, I'm inspecting the VCM spooler assembly on the rear bank, and I just got into it. And the first thing I'm going to comment on, this is the top half. You can recognize it there. I guess the first thing I notice is that it's brand new. I mean, the remanufactured, it's brand new. But there's dirt in here, dirty oil already, which tells me that this thing wasn't cleaned out very well before assembled. So there's a little bit of dirty oil flowing through it. But the other thing I noticed right away, I mean, look at the condition there, the grime, rust, and look what's going on with the screen. The screen is actually dented, pushed up. So I think I figured out why this port on top of the VCM spooler system on the rear bank stays open. And I disassembled, trying to figure out my problem. And the reason is, if you look inside, there's a moving part in there. There's a plunger. That thing does move back and forth. There's 2 separate ones. There's one on this side and one on this side. So what I think must happen here is that the oil is flowing through the system constantly and coming out the top here and just flowing down into the engine until the VCM is activated. And then all, or at least some of the oil is diverted down the rocker arm shaft, or 2 shafts. So I think that is why this port remains open, is because the oil is on a constant flow and needs a place to go when VCM is not activated. And that would also keep the system clean so that there wouldn't be a buildup of residue from pooling oil that's not flowing. So I think the idea is to just keep it flowing the entire time until it's needed. So here's a close look at what my screen looked like. Look at this. It's totally crushed, and there's a bunch of metal shavings caught up in the screen. So that would have been from the last engine that this came out of before it was rebuilt. And so I don't know, but this is pure laziness or just lack of attention to detail to sell me a new rocker arm or a remanufactured one that's in this condition. I'm going to take the screen. I think I am, at least. Let's see here. This is a different design too, because this, let me see here. This has a gasket that is not present in mine. Interesting. So this has a gasket the screen is integrated into the gasket here. But when I look over here at the bottom half, on this one, there is no gasket. It's got a recessed area for the screen, but there's no gasket. Look at all that grime, right? Pooled up back in here in this area. Brand new or rebuilt. But they obviously did not touch that aspect of it. So here's my replacement screen, which is used, came out of my old engine, but it's clean and it's in good condition next to this one. So I'm going to use that. I also want to point out the different design of these metal plates. They go, look how the difference. This is from my current rocker arm assembly. This is from the old one, but this would be the original one that came on my 2008 J35A7 engine. So this, I don't know if this is newer or older design. All right, taking a close look at the VCM area. There's a lot of filth at that end of it. See if you can see down into the, that's the area where the screen goes. And it looks like there might be some filth down in that hole as well. There we go. I'm going to blow that out and then reassemble this. All right, this is majorly disappointing, although hopefully I'll get past it. So when I brought my air to blow this out, I noticed like sand blew out all over here. And basically it's small engine metal fragments, and you can see it right there on the side.
There's a lot of snow out there.
Wait a minute, what are those? Hold on, that's it right there. What are those things? Can't really, the camera won't really zoom up on it nicely, but they almost look spherical. That can't not possibly belong in there. That would have been under the screen mechanism, and I assume oil goes through from the top down and is filtered by this. This debris is under that, so it would have gotten past the crushed screen that I showed earlier. But it almost looks spherical, so I'm hoping that it doesn't belong in there, but there's no way. Look, you can see it there. Let me try to get a photograph, see if I can get a better look at it through a photograph. All right, let's see what this looks like now that I have blasted it all out. And there was a fair amount of grime. So there we can see down into that area. And I've cleaned the whole thing up. But I tell you what I think. I think the only way I can do this now is to take off, completely disassemble the rocker arm and make sure that it's clean, because the debris that I found down in there, I don't know where it came from, and I don't know why it's spherical, but it could definitely clog the oil ports and prevent proper operation of the VCM. I mean, I don't think I can ignore this. So I think I'm going to have to disassemble and blow out the oil passages in the rocker arm rails. So now I'm angry because my son just enlightened me on what the hell I am looking at. So these small bead-like pieces of debris that I'm finding are it's sandblasting material. From when they remanufactured these heads, they sandblasted everything, because I'm told that aluminum engine parts are sandblasted, not acid dipped. So what I have is sandblast particles inside my VCM mechanism under the screen that is supposed to filter things like that out of the oil, because my assumption is the oil comes from the top down, since this screen is a bowl right here. I assume the oil flows from the top down, and all this debris was under it. So whatever. I don't know how they did it. Now I'm really upset with the machine shop. And just so you guys know, it's in Chicago and it's called Windy City. I already called them once with a complaint, but now they're going to get the big complaint, because giving me a piece of equipment in this condition is absurd, because that sandblasting material will damage the engine. It's sandpaper, basically, is what it is. And now I have to make sure that there's none of it in my rocker arm assembly.